What do delivering newspapers before sunrise, knocking on doors to collect payments, and building a 400 plus person company have in common? In this episode, I sit down with Ed DeAngelis, founder and CEO of EDA Contractors, whose journey began long before he ever stepped into a boardroom. As a young boy, Ed was up before dawn, delivering newspapers, and then going door to door collecting payments. Along the way, he learned lessons that would shape his entire career. Show up when you say you will, treat people with respect, be accountable, and understand that relationships truly matter. Those early experiences taught him something many leaders spend a lifetime trying to learn: that customer service, trust, and connection are not soft skills, they're business skills. Later, when Ed entered the construction industry, he approached every role as if he already owned the company. He worked when no one was watching, stayed late, took responsibility, and constantly asked himself, what would I do if this were my business? That mindset eventually led him to take a leap of faith, leave a successful career, and build EDA Contractors from the ground up. And what makes Ed's story especially powerful is that he chose to bring humanity into an industry not typically known for it. His philosophy of humanity as a strategy challenges the belief that organizations must choose between caring for people and achieving results. Through vulnerability, trust, accountability, and a deep commitment to his team, Ed has proven that both are possible. As Ed shares in this conversation, once you jump in the pool, you have to swim. His story is a reminder that preparation beats fear, kindness is never a weakness, and some of the most powerful business strategies begin with simply caring about people. It's a conversation that truly aligns perfectly with my own belief that connection is the work. If you're looking for a keynote speaker, workshop facilitator, or consultant to help your organization strengthen leadership, culture, trust, communication, and meaningful connection, please reach out to me, Jody at Today is the Day, Live It. And if you're ready to take your own leap from the edge of comfort to the center of impact, pick up a copy of Today is the Day, Live It, available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and other online retailers. And be sure, don't forget, subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day, Live It. And special thank you to our listeners in more than 135 countries around the globe. Your support continues to prove that connection is the work. Now let's dive into this fabulous conversation with Ed DeAngelis. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. I'm your host, Jody Hope Grinwald, and as I say every single episode, I interview the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible. And today I have Ed DeAngelis. Hi, Ed. How are you?
Hi, Jody. How are you? Thanks for having me. I'm excited to have our conversation.
Me too. Me too. And I'm so glad that we met. And I'm grateful to Marie for introducing us. So this is great. A shout out to Marie for that.
Shout out to Marie for sure.
Absolutely. And Ed is the founder and CEO of EDA Contractors. And his mission, which I can't wait to get into talking more about, is humanity as a strategy. And I absolutely, as everybody knows, my entire platform is on connection. So this is going to be a great conversation. But before we get to that, Ed, I just want to read a little bit about your bio. This is the only time I read anything from a
Sure.
script. EDA Contractors was founded by Ed DeAngelis 25 years ago, May 1999. Feels like yesterday, right, Ed?
You know what? It really does. I have to admit, I'm still 30 years old.
Me too. Good. I'm glad we're on the same page. They celebrated their 25th anniversary of service in May 2024 with more than 450 employees, which is miraculous and amazing. EDA has grown from a company focused solely on roofing to include masonry, panels, and historic restoration, serving Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. So, I don't think I've had anybody, and this is the truth, in the 6 years, I'm in my sixth season, that is from your industry on this podcast.
Well, you know what? That's part of why I wanted to speak with you. And I think it'll be partly is to promote my industry because I think construction is an important part of the lexicon of business. And I think it's important that we have this conversation. I'm excited. That's why I get excited to have conversations with people like yourself.
No, I appreciate it. And what I do on every podcast episode is kind of go back a little bit because I love to build up to where you are today. For those of us who have where we started, we've now ended up in a very different place, which is what happens to most of us. But it's really awesome, and with humanity as a strategy to learn more about the human being behind behind the organization that was started, because when it
Sure.
existed, you didn't bring it forward. So talk to me a little bit about young Ed, where you grew up, and what life was like for you as a kid.
So I grew up, Jody, in Northeast Philadelphia. I grew up in a row home, which, if anyone knows what a row home is, it's an inexpensive townhome. They call them townhomes now. When I was growing up, we called them row homes. I grew up in a great neighborhood with a lot of kids. I think it was a fantastic experience for myself, and I think it did help mold me to who I am today. Everybody had a little bit of the same thing. It was very common. We walked to school. I sound like my grandfather, but we did. We walked to school, but that was part of the experience of connecting with people as you did when you went to school and back. So, I was a middle class child. Two young parents. My parents had me at a young age, so they were pretty hard to get over anything because they kind of knew the gig because they were pretty young. But I think part of my story, I think that is important, and for anybody out there who was doing it, I was a paper boy, and that really, I didn't realize till recently how much that impacted my future. And the reason I say that is, so let's say I'm in seventh grade, I'm probably 12, 11 or 12. At the time, I was delivering in the early days, and this is going to age some of it was a paper called the Bulletin, and it was in the afternoon. You would deliver it in the afternoon. But then where my life really changed was they went out of business, and I had to deliver papers in the morning. So the reason I say this is important is I'm going to take you through how I feel like this helped me in business. So I'm a young man. My parents don't want to give me a lot, so I need to earn money to get the things that I really want. They would give me the Bobo sneakers or the tough skin Sears jeans, and I wanted the nicer jeans. And they said, well, if you want them, you're gonna have to work. So, I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning before school. I have to go up to what's called a drop to get papers, and you had to prepay for your papers for the week. Right. So you had to have enough money for your bond, which was for the papers. You get your papers, you would deliver them, and then if you delivered them well, you wouldn't get much of from a customer service standpoint, you were okay. But if you didn't leave them in the door, if they got wet, if you were late, it's amazing the amount of customer service you're doing at this young age. You're getting yelled at because back in those days, because I'm 58. Back in those days, everyone got their news from the paper. So, like, I would be walking around and Mr. Thompson and Mrs. Thompson and everyone would be waiting for the paper to kind of know what was going to happen from the day before. So, you had customer service there. You had to wake up every single day because if I didn't get those papers there, the calls would have been intense. Then you had to go collect. So, which means you had to go door to door and receive your money for your bill. And whatever you made over your bill, whether it was through tips and whatever, that was your profit. So there'd be amazing amount of opportunities, Jody, where I would have people shutting their doors and turn the lights off as I was coming up to collect because it was just part of the process. But it taught me also how to treat people better. So then when I was going to school, I would be saying, hi, Mr. Thompson. Hi, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Smith. I'd be very nice to them. And they tended to give me good tips because I was just kind and nice. So the reason I say that is so when you think about a business, you think about you have to do a good service, you have to pay your bills. You want to make a profit. You have to figure out how to do customer service very well. If I got more papers, I'd make more money. If I had less papers, I'd make less money. I'm doing something before school, so I'm committed to doing it. So I tell that story, and I don't mean to be so long-winded, but when we get to where I think I've been or I've gone, I think that was an experience that really helped shape me at a young age.
You just taught me a bunch of things too about being a paper boy. I had no idea, or a paper person at this point. I had no idea that you had to pay for your papers up front.
Up front. And that's how you, and so they put the responsibility on you. What a great way to teach you, though, because anything I made over that bill was my profit. If I made under that bill, if I didn't collect, so sometimes kids would get lazy and they wouldn't collect. And because I didn't feel like dealing with it was long. I had to go to 50 houses. And then if they weren't there, you had to go back and go back. And then you would miss a week and they'd say, I'll catch you next week. And then you had to make sure you had in your book writing down that, Jody didn't pay me, so I need to make sure. And then they would say, no, I know I paid you. Because sometimes they'd be getting out of the car with their groceries and I say, okay, here's $3. That's my bill. But they would forget or they didn't pay me. So it was, you really had to be organized. So it was a job.
That's yeah, I'm thinking about it. It's truly was a great way to get
Oh,
kids ready for what was going. I mean, it runs the gamut of the training process right there, from everything from collections, which is so
yes,
hard at
correct.
such a young age, to the responsibilities of waking up and things like that. But how long did you do that for? Did you do that for a few years?
I did it for probably 3 or 4 years until 3 years probably until I was able to get a different, do a different job. I mean, I kept working. I would work at a restaurant. Busboy, or I was a waiter, or I was, back in the day, Jody. And I don't want to go through a whole story, but I do love these stories because they tell you how the world has changed. So when people would go to do their groceries back in the day, they'd have their carts, but you couldn't bring the cart out into the parking lot. Right, I know. In Philadelphia. So what you would do is you would wait and you would help everyone put the packages in their car and you would get a nickel, a dime, or a quarter. So you were hawking. So you knew if Jody was coming, oh, she's a good tipper. It's my turn to get Jody. And you would, and the reason I think that's important is I think it took away a lot of our shyness to be able to interact with adults. And sometimes they wouldn't tip you. I mean, look, that sometimes they would, oh, thank you.
Mhm.
But a lot of times it was a good experience. And I think I look back on those times and I go, they were pretty valuable in my education on how to get to be in business and how a little bit of work and grit can help and have some strategies on how to. And I'm telling you, the first strategy and it is part of the humanity as a strategy, was just be kind.
It's free. It doesn't cost anything, and it's so simple. And
So
yet
simple.
it's a tough for certain people. And listen, we don't know where someone is in their life. So if they aren't being kind in that moment, they may be going through something terrible. And then they look back on that moment that they weren't kind to someone and they're like, oh, that really stinks that I was like that. But if we can wake up every day with that feeling of just being kind throughout the day, a smile, you know this as much as I do, a smile smiling to someone could change their entire trajectory of their day. It's that simple.
I totally agree. I can't speak enough about that.
So what did you want to be when you grew up?
So my dad owned a construction company, different than what I do, but he had owned a construction company. At one point, I really didn't know that I wanted to go into construction. I did. I think I just wanted to I really enjoyed the feeling of making my own money and not depending on my parents, So I won't tell you that I definitely thought I was going to go into construction, but my dad was in it, and I saw him go to work every day, and I think that kind of probably put a little bit of bug in me. So I went to high school, and then I went to college, and I went to college for just marketing. I played soccer when I was in college. I was still just like I just want to make money, and but then an opportunity came up where it was happened to be in construction, and I figured I could do that because I felt a little bit comfortable in that field, in that world.
Right. So you went into construction and then you sat then now you're sitting in the CEO seat for many years. And but I just want to take a moment to say, so where did you start in construction and where you are now? Let's talk a
Yes.
little bit about that.
Yeah. So, during the summers of college, I would work for a friend of mine's uncles in the roofing business. I would just do driving, and I was just really just kind of hustling, trying to make some money while I was in college. And then when I graduated from college, I had some opportunities to go work for like M&M Mars or some places in marketing because I went to St. Joe's University, which has a big food marketing program. So there was opportunities for me to go into that, but they offered me a job. And I think the really another big important point was I worked really hard. I always was there. I stayed late and they watched me and I didn't know they were watching. I was just doing what I thought was right. And when I graduated, they said, we would really like you to come work here. And I started and I said, yeah, but the reason I tell that story is you never know when people are watching. So do the best you can when they're not watching and you will be recognized. And I don't think I was anything special. I just think because they didn't know what I was doing. They just knew, why is he always here? He's always on time. He's always, wanting to get more work. And I think that had an impact on them and it felt comfortable to me. So they said, hey, wait, how would you like to be an estimator at this construction company? An estimator is someone who goes out and prices projects. And, I had an opportunity to do that. And I started as a entry level estimator at my friend's uncle's place and just doing roofing.
Wow. And
Uh,
then when you did that for a bit, and I'm just trying to
yeah.
try to get you to your trajectory to where you're sitting now. So if you can collapse that just a little, I'd love to know that transition because what a difference from estimator to starting your own business.
So look, I've spoken about this a lot of times. There was something in my DNA that wanted me to be an entrepreneur. And I think it started from the paper route. I think watching my father, I had that in me. So I worked at that company, but I pretended that I was owning the company. I mean, I worked for them like I was trying to do the best for them. I mean, I really did try to pretend. And then I would, in my own time, I would think, what would I do differently if I was doing this? So you just have to think like, do you really want this? And but the transition from when you are ready to say, I was making a good living, I had a wife and two young children, to press that button to say, I am leaving the organ, and they treated me well. They were good people to me. I can't sit here and tell you that I left out of bad terms. I was happy, but there was an itch in me that I felt like I couldn't fulfill if I didn't try this on my own. And then my father gave me advice that I think that is the best advice, and I hope I can give it to anyone else. If you want to do this, are you ready? Are you prepared? Can you go back and live in an apartment with your wife and two children and start over again? And that was important to me because I was still young. I was probably 29. And I said, I can do that. I can take this chance because I had a nice, I mean, I'm not, I mean, I had a nice home, a nice enough. I was doing well, but there was something, I mean, and actually, Jody, just to get even personal, I asked my wife, I said, look, I can't do this if you're not with me. And she said, no, I don't want you to do that because she was afraid. So then 2 days later, or 3 days later, she said, look, I love you. I know you. You do talk about it all the time because I'm a family man. I would express how I felt, not negatively, just like I would do it this way, do it. I don't think I can do this. And I mean, I think you need to do this, and I'm just going to have to be part of this. But I'm scared. I'm afraid. And I think that's a fair. There's nothing wrong with that. We got two little kids. You're doing well. Why do we want to go down this path? And I was just like, look, I really believe it's in me and I think I can do it. And you know how I work and I'll put every effort I have into it. And I think you can live. We both grew up in row homes. I said, I think we could live in an apartment. I think we came from a humble, not like middle class, but we were humble enough that we could understand it. So that's a big part. And you need a part. And if you're in a relationship and you care about your family, to not do it without their support, you would be lonely. And I don't think I would have made it through those early years without having her, at least her. If I would have just said, look, I'm doing it, I think it would have created some issues. But pressing that button to go is a big deal. And then once you press it, you're off. You're off and you're going. And
Did
it's a scary thing.
did you have moments during that time of pressing that button that you were like, did I make the right choice?
I would say no, but not because I was so fearful of failing that I was so concentrated on making it that I really never, because the thing is, once you jump in the pool, you have to swim. You can't say, I wish I didn't jump in the pool because you're going to drown.
Right.
So you got to swim. And that's what I did. I just said, I'm just going to swim as hard as I can while I'm in this. So I didn't really regret it. I felt very comfortable that I could do it, and I would put the time in. And no, I did it. And it doesn't mean that I was so courageous and brave. It was just I was fearful to even think that. I was just like, let's go. I got to get going.
Exactly. And the thing about fear, it will paralyze you if you let it set into your brain and stop it,
Mm.
because it will stop you. And then you don't keep going. And I know a lot of people that want to transition and do other things, but they're so fearful that they're stuck in this place. And then they have, I don't love the word regret, but it exists and it's true. And people have regrets all the time. And I hate to see that too, because I feel like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't take a leap of faith also. And it's scary. It is so scary. And so I don't tell people just take the leap without fear. But if you've got to be prepared for that leap and have support. I agree with you 100%. Support is so important when you take a leap.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have the support and I didn't have people in my life who helped me. And that fear is valid, and you're 100% right that it can't paralyze you. What you have to do is you have to, though, prepare yourself and think about it. And I did a lot of thinking. That's why I said during those times I was really thinking about it. So what I would say to someone who might think or have regret, you made the right if you put the time in before you made the decision, you made the right decision at the time you made it. There's no reason to regret it. It may not turn out, but you made the right decision at the moment because no one knows how life is going to turn out. So, but as long as you prepare yourself and get support from other people and ask them questions and think about it, that leap off point is scary, but you've been preparing for that leap off point. You didn't just wake up one, Jody, you didn't wake up one day and say, let me do this. That's impulse. And I think impulse you're going to regret.
Right.
Planning, even if it doesn't work out, you said, look, I tried. And look, my wife and I didn't know if we were going to stay together. We didn't know if having children was going to be a good thing or a bad thing.
Right.
Life is unpredictable, but as you prepare for it, when you make the decision, it's the right decision at that time.
So talk to me about humanity as a strategy. I absolutely love that. And what made you come up with it? And I know your industry is not typically run
That's
run that
kind.
yeah, you know what I mean? Not typically, right? I don't want to say that it's always. It's just not typically run that way. So what put you in that place to want to do that?
You know, Jody, because I think your audience would appreciate the humanity of it all, is now that scared part I was in for at least 8 years because they said every business, not every business, a lot of businesses fail in the first 5 years. So I was convicted to make sure that that didn't happen. And then for the most part, we were successful and things were going well. Things were happening. We were growing. I mean, we had what I would consider success, but I was grinding. I was still grinding like it was day one. And I was starting, I was losing myself. I started to really feel like if this is what I got to do for the next 30 years, I don't know if I want to keep doing like this. I don't know if I want this. Is there more to this? Like, can I create a different experience for not just for myself, but if I'm feeling this way, I'm sure there's other people who are feeling this way. And, one morning I couldn't get off the floor. I mean, and I never missed work. I mean, I got to a point where my body just said, you need to stop. That scared me. And then it helped me because it put me on a journey of can I build this great company and make money and make it successful and also be kind, not just to myself, but to my people. And are there examples of that?
Right.
And I went on a reading journey. I started with Good to Great by Jim Collins. I read Enough by John Bogle, who started Vanguard. And then I went on this journey of saying, are there businesses out there, not in construction, I'm talking in general. Can you run a business that's people centric, where the human beings are the most important asset that you have? And how do you create that and also be competitive, profitable, hold people accountable? Can I do both? And it just opened up my world to like, wow, I can, I can build this business differently. And yes, no one in construction were doing it that way. It was hammer nail. And I don't want to make myself seem different because I learned from the Zappos, Tony Say, the Starbucks of the world, the Southwest Airlines. I mean, these are companies that are doing commodity things, but they're doing it in a way that creates an overall feeling of success, not just for me, but for the people. So humanity is a strategy. So then it became like, how do I strategically set up a culture, mission, values, talk about it, invest in it, and go through that? So it didn't happen in the beginning. It happened at a transition point.
Well, it's interesting because I want to go back to, and I hope you don't mind, go back to
No,
the
please.
moment where you talk about being on the floor. And I
Yeah, sure.
appreciate that vulnerability. I think that that's something where a lot of us, including myself, that burnout feeling, that feeling like there's got to be more. What got you off the floor and how did you get off the floor?
So getting off the floor was difficult, but again, I go back to you need a support system. Nobody gets off the floor by themselves. I had a purpose to get off the floor. It wasn't the work, it was my wife and my children. So that gave me one. I had family, mother, father, some friends, not a lot of friends in that way. And I had the resources to be able to go get some therapy and some help to help me, kind of talk through what I was feeling because that fear and grind that is in you, which makes me successful, was also the thing that was keeping me on the floor. So it's this, you're at this transition point. So what I would say is when you are in need, the most important thing you can do is ask for help. And it's hard for a male, especially, to feel like they are vulnerable and weak. How do I get help from people? And I started speaking to my aunt and who happened to have good, like she had a real grasp, my mother, my father, my wife, just you can't get off the floor in that moment if you don't seek some help on how to get there. And I would tell anybody, they may look at me now and say, "Oh my God, it must have been easy." And I'm not saying it was part of a journey that I was on. And I think it's something that I'm happy to speak to because I want other people to know that if it happens, it might just be a bump, you know. And I think that's part of life and the humanity as a strategy for EDA is we've taken that. For example, we have a program called EDA Pact, Personal Accountability Changes Today. And it's for people who are suffering from either mental illness or substance abuse or any kind of addiction. And this program we created because while I was on the floor for whatever reason, a lot of people are on the floor for different reasons, and we don't know why. And a business can be a great vehicle to help. And one of the biggest things that hurts people to not ask for help is the stigma and the concern that they'll be looked at differently. And what we did was, with the help of an individual who went through this, who was brave enough to speak to me about it, we create a program where if you identify yourself as having those issues, we will go get you help with you, and we will guarantee your job back. Not you will 100%, no matter how long it takes, 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 years, we're going to guarantee your job back. And that was not my education. That was from the individual who went through. He said, look, here's the thing that they're afraid of. They're going to be stigmatized as being broken and wronged. They're going to need you. They need to be able to support their family at one point. So, but we are also hold them accountable. You have to go get healthy.
Right.
So the reason I tell that story about myself is that is the next extension of how do I, as a human being, realize that there's other human beings out there also that are going through the same, whatever circumstance they're going through. And then at the same time, they also need to feed their family. So they're looking up from the floor too, saying, I have to get better to help support this family that I'm in, or whatever, even if you're not in a family, support yourself. That if I don't do this, there's gonna be a lot of people in my life who will be disappointed or be upset that I'm not healthy.
I so appreciate you sharing that because you are right. There is that stigma, especially around males not wanting to go get therapy. I'm not saying it's everyone, but there's definitely is a little bit more of a stigma there. And there are many women who don't want to either. I am a big, I think therapy is so important. Coaching is so important, whether it's, executive coaching or it's just life coach, whatever it is, having a support system, whatever that is for anyone, I think is so valuable and so important.
In a world where trust drives decisions and relationships matter more than transactions, disconnection is something businesses simply cannot afford. I'm Jody Hope Grinwald, a leadership and connection strategist, and my work is different because I don't offer just a single framework or surface level fix. I bring an entire ecosystem built on connection with me. I work across leadership, career transition teams, and client relationships, helping organizations rebuild trust where it may be strained and design their work so disconnection doesn't happen in the first place. Because when one link is off, it affects everything, and sustainable growth depends on keeping those connections strong. To learn more or inquire about me speaking at any of your events, reach out to me at Jody, Jodi, at todayisthedayliveit.com.
So how did you begin implementing humanity as a strategy into your business?
So the first thing we did was, again, we created a mission statement, which was really important, a vision. There's your, the first thing is you have to be bought in. If you are the top of the ticket, whether you're the CEO, the head person, whatever your role is, you have to have it in your bones that this is important and this has value. Because if you waver a little bit, people are going to start to say, why are we talking about culture? Why are we talking about feelings? Why are we talking about this or that? Or can't we just talk about the transactional stuff that we have to do? And you're committed, you say, we're going to do both. So you say, we can do both. It is 100% possible to do both. So I weaved in the culture. I brought in some outside consultants to get the culture moving. And then as the culture was moving, it was like, okay, really what we're trying to do is come up with strategies to help the human beings who work at our company to be happy in what they do, to be effective at what they do, to be happy when they go home, to be more fulfilled, to be healthier. And if that happens, we will be better. So let's strategically come up with ways to create an environment, a soil, so to speak, so they can have that. Now they're going to be held accountable, but at least they'll be held accountable with kind. So strategically come up with ways to support your teams. And it's going to take you money. It's going to take you some time. That's why I work for a for-profit business. So you have to make money. So let's be clear. It's going to take time and it's going to take effort and it's going to take planning and it's going to take conviction because there's going to be 75% of the people saying this is stupid.
I'm sorry to say, I know, and it's sad to say, but it's true.
And in my business, there's going to be a lot of people saying, why are you doing all that? Because the return on it is not immediate. This is a long play. This is hammer nail. If I got to put this nail in, I hammer it in. I'm done. I fit. This is not that. This is a long play of a journey of trying to create something that is more sustainable. And we're still, and let me tell you, we are not even close to getting to where we want to get to. We're still on the journey, but once you're on the journey, you see the benefits of it. So it takes intentional. You need outside resources to help you. You might need some consultants to come in. If you don't know something, get someone to help you and just keep going down that path. The Beatles aren't the Beatles if they didn't have a producer, they didn't have someone to help them, if they didn't have someone to help them coach on how to play the guitar a certain way or sing, voice coaches. I mean, so let's be honest. No one does it by themselves. We need a village to create this success.
What do you think is the largest obstacle with getting, your teams and other leaders within your organization to embrace it? And it's not just this industry. I want to talk about the other industries that you think need this as well, because there's standout industries, I believe, that actually would really benefit from adopting what you're talking about. So I know I asked you like two questions
No,
about
that's okay. The biggest obstacle always is that people don't trust. They've been hurt, meaning that we have a value here at EDA called build trust. And you have to really show them that this is real. This isn't just performative. This isn't a ping pong table. This isn't like that. You're not just going to, when things get tough, you're going to pull all this back. And you have to show them, test me. This is real. And you have to keep getting your leaders to believe in that. And again, I say it over and over again. It comes at the top. I have to be so convicted. If I say don't do that because we make more money, it will send a signal. And you go, yeah, but don't you want to make money? And the answer is, of course I want to make money. Our job is to make money. They get a check, and there's a accountability that they need to fulfill. But at the same time, why are we not creating a place where both can be done? So the thing that you have to overcome, number one, is the fear that everyone is it's going to be odd to them. But I think in the world that we've seen in history, life is about the people who said, I'm willing to take some risk here for this opportunity because I believe in my heart. And I did research on it. Again, I didn't just go and do this. I did a lot of research on my own to believe that this is a viable option. So we may be late to the game, and those pioneers have been ahead. My job is to just take what they've kind of and the barriers are to convince more people. Now I've done this whole journey of reading, they haven't, and they're saying, Ed, let's just get the crane out on the building. What the hell are we talking about? Where's the strategy for the crane? I said, we got to do both. Got to do a strategy for people. So people, and they're afraid to be vulnerable because a lot of this is vulnerability. And when people, especially males and construction workers, they don't want to open up. They're afraid to open up because it may open up things that they don't want to open up to. But here's what I will tell you, and I want everyone out there to hear this. The best people, the ones that you would never believe have opened up, are the ones that are leading this organization. Because the strategy of helping the hardest ones who really just need it, but they don't want to accept it, whoo, they are rock stars. And once they started doing it, then it became this thing that you keep knocking down the walls. But you got to be, those are the barriers. The barriers is it's strange, it's odd, it's a little bit different. Your opening is about creating how are you going to be different? And this is one of our ways strategically to be different is to really dive into how do we create an experience. We let people go, people leave us because they have different needs or they don't like the work or they don't like the way we do things and we don't like that they're not fulfilling. So this isn't about like everybody hugging, and this isn't charity. This is a business. But we can hug each other too, and we can do it in a way. People can leave with care, and we can let people go with care.
Yeah. I got a little bit of boot camp of doing that when my younger years working at American Heart Association. It was always tough to let people go, but where they went to and how they grew, it just was the right timing for them, right? And you do it with kindness. My dad had this saying, and I think might have mentioned it to you when we first talked, that be careful about how you treat people when you're responsible for the way they eat.
Yes, I
And
love
I
that.
never thought about that, when you're responsible for 450 people, the way those people eat because they're
Yes.
living off of your salary. That's a huge responsibility and undertaking. But the interesting thing, the ripple effect that you're having by what you're doing with this humanity as a strategy also probably is helping them, and you may never find out who it's helping, but helping them at home with their families. So when they go home, right, that you and I talked about that. It has a ripple effect in the family. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Part of our mission, one of the parts of our mission is to make a difference in the lives of all the people that touch us or we touch them. And you go, wow, that's for construction. We don't have anything in our mission statement that talks about construction because that is, Jody, you brought up the thing that is the most powerful is we want them to feel good and be better. So when they go home, they're better. And then when they come back the next day, they're just as healthy back and forth. So there is no such thing. It's a fallacy. And I want everyone to hear it that you can turn it off from one place to another. You may think you've turned it off, but the brain doesn't have, I don't know about your brain, but my brain doesn't have an off switch on it. So you are in 100% you, whoever you are. So if we can create and work, we spend a lot of our life at work. So if we can create businesses that can create a better experience at work, I believe they will have a better experience at home, which will translate into a better, efficient innovator, risk taker, psychologically safe. We teach about emotional intelligence, which if you're teaching about emotional intelligence, that's going to help you be a better mother, a better friend, a better father, a better child. That is going to help you because you're dealing with conflict. Life is conflicting at a lot of times. There's a lot of things that go on. If you can learn why you have emotions and how you have emotions, and we teach that, that's important. We do something, Jody, because this is also for home, is we do just a minute of breathing before every meeting. And you say, my God, what do you sit around with your, legs crossed and no. We close our eyes and we say, let's just try to be present. Well, that's no different at home. You walk into home and home can be chaotic at times, good or bad. And if you can have some practices of how do I get myself to take my heart rate down and take my brain and just calm it before I walk in this door, because well, that's no different if we're on the job site. The more you can practice, and that's hard, and this is hard. So I believe 100% that the health of the individual going home, we have to have a strategy on helping them feel connected, not just from here to home. And you go, well, is it a cult? No. Anybody can leave here at any time, and we're happy, like you said, Jody, that if they felt like there's a better opportunity for them and they're going to be happier, we wish you luck. So this isn't that. You don't have to work here. But that connection to home, the stories that I have about that connection to home and how much we receive back about a wife saying, look, I don't know what you're doing over there, but Bill is like a different person. Man, that makes you feel, or a mother coming up to you saying, look, my son has been going through a divorce, but because he's working at your place, he's getting the support that he needs just as a person while he's going through this. And I'm so happy he works. Now I get chills thinking about it.
I'm getting chills, and I don't even. I have.
Yeah,
I don't know
you do.
anything about your business at
Right,
all, but I get chills.
So it really gives you that feeling of something that you don't want to lose.
Yeah, sure.
Are you there? Sorry.
Yes. No, you're fine. Oh, good. So what other industries do you think this is lacking in besides construction?
Look, I think industries, look, and I'm going to be in some ways sexist in a way that male dominated industries for the most part, we as men, as a male myself, we tend to have this societal belief that we have to fix everything. So I think anything that is male dominated generally needs to have a discussion about how do you deal with your males? And you go, well, aren't women important? Women are very important. They're just as important. That's not like there's a male issue that we have. I think I honestly, I think if you can do it in construction because it's a different type of world, there's many industries. I think financial industries that are doggy. This whole stupid win-lose zero-sum game concept is just not healthy. It's not healthy for human beings. Every game, everything. I love sports. I watch sports. I played sports. Life isn't like that. It's a game. It's an entertainment game that has a winner and a loser. Life isn't like that. It doesn't have to always be winners and losers. Yes, we're going to win work against someone else and they're going to lose, but we're not going to relish and enjoy them losing. We're going to relish and enjoy our winning. But that doesn't mean we have to be that way. So when you ask me what in any industry, I honestly believe every industry needs to talk about it. Some are way ahead. And I've read about them and I go, though, I mean, think about airlines, Southwest Airlines, back in the day.
Right.
No airline could make money except Southwest Airlines. Well, because they were doing something different. Their owner, the CEO, was trying to create a different experience. So I would say, without getting specific about any industry, I think the best teachers in the world, humanity as a strategy, is the best teachers. The ones that just teach and don't really do more and engage themselves with the students in a way that is about how they are as human beings are not as good as the teachers who do. Because at least in my life, those teachers made a big difference to me.
How can people find you and find EDA?
So the best thing to do is you can go to our website, edacontractor.com. You can go to my LinkedIn profile. I write a lot of stories. I do some podcasts. I think it's important. I think if you go to our website, you'll see some of the things I'm speaking to. I think it's important for me, and I want anyone else out there who is doubting this or questioning this or concerned, they can reach out to me through the LinkedIn page, and I'm happy to give them some advice. I don't have all the answers. I'm a regular guy who's just trying to do the best I can. But I can only tell you this from a KPI, and I'll leave you with this. My business has grown exponentially since from the time there to here, and it's only people want to work here, people don't want to leave here, people innovate here that it's unbelievable what they come up with. So there's a lot of great things that happen because of this experience and this transition.
I was going to ask you that question, so you got me before. So I'm glad because that's the thing that people want to know, right? That's what the owners and CEOs want to know. Like, what is the end result of this? Like, if I'm going to put in the time, will I see a return on my investment? And
1,000%. You are foolish if you're not investing in it. Again, I would argue that the asset AI is coming and that's important and we're going to utilize it. The most important, and do not tell me asset you have is your people. What money are you putting into the job isn't enough. My great grandfather, thought, he was from an immigrant and the job was enough. We've evolved past that. The human beings today need more, and you got to invest in it. And I make money for it, and I should invest back in it. I'm doing fine. And if you can't do it, then you might not have a good plan. So if Starbucks can sell coffee and do it different, or sneakers at Zappos, you can do it in your industry.
so it's funny. This is the one time I don't have my Starbucks cup with me, but I usually have. It's the one time I always have Starbucks with me, and I agree. And that's the thing I do every day. Now, nothing against any other coffee shops. I love all the coffee shops, but there's one thing about going there. It's they know me because I've been there go there all the time. They know my cup. They know my dog gets a pup cup. I don't have to tell them my order. Everybody's happy. It's like it's my morning ritual, and it feels really good. And it's only 3 minutes, but it starts off my morning really well.
And that's what humanity as a strategy is. There's a pebble here that I believe in, and I'll say it to you because I think it's important. I call them pebbles because you can repeat them all the time. And it's as simple as say hi to someone. just say hi to everyone and if you come into our office, you'll see that people have said hi to each other. And that's what I feel at a Starbucks. I walk in and they say hi to me, and I say hi to them. And that's humanity. And having a strategy to say hi, even when your day isn't going great or something's bothering you, just push yourself to say hi. You're going to create an experience, and that's the investment in your people. And that's what Starbucks has done. They make that part of their institutional process to
Mhm.
create that. You go, well, aren't they just doing it out of, they have to do it? Well, the ones at Chick-fil-A does it too. They do it to a point, but then the people that want to be there stay and the other ones leave and they go over to the other coffee shop. And there's nothing wrong with those coffee shops, but I want to build my coffee shop this way. That's right. And that's how I feel.
So it's interesting. I just have to say something because just triggered something in me when you said that, which is, so if I go into my coffee shop there at Starbucks and I hear them say who I know Kayla, I know Roy, I know all these people, right? And so if I hear them when I say, "How are you back?" and they can hear in their voice an inflection that showcases that something's going on with them, I'll come back and say, or they, on the other hand, if I'll go, "Oh, I'm having a day," they'll be like, "Everything all right?" Like just that little bit, right? That's the
That's
humanity right there.
humanity. And my company is better because of them. Them. The collection of creating humanity, we are people who want to be with other people. Even introverts want to be with other people. We need other people. So that little care of humanity is the difference. And I know it sounds like it's soft. It's actually very hard. And you have to really concentrate on doing it. So what I am saying is, yes, if you're looking for the easy way, this is not the easy way, but this is the most rewarding way. And money is not my driver anymore. It is to help. It's another book I read, Good to Great by Adam Grant. It's about, I want to keep doing this because what I get, I want to make profits to keep expanding this ideology. So Starbucks, a perfect idea. They probably said, let's do this in this one store. And now Jody's getting that feeling in Toms River, New Jersey, and Ed's getting it in Bensalem, PA, and someone in China is getting it, and someone in Malaysia is getting. That's what you can do.
Exactly, exactly. And that it's like it's small steps and have such a great ripple effect. And is there anything else, Ed? Because I could talk to you for 3 hours. Is there is there anything else that you want to share with, and I want to thank, before I forget, this is important. I want to thank the over 135 countries who have downloaded this podcast, who have stayed with me now in my 6th season, listening to these incredible change makers who are doing wonderful work. Is there anything you want to share on what could be this global scale?
I mean, look, first of all, thank you for having this platform because I think change makers are the people who got us to where we are today in this world. And the more we platform those people who aren't trying to do it exactly just the way we've done it, that they want to see ways to improve it. Thank you for doing it. And for me, I want to just say that don't be courageous. And if you feel something in your heart and if it matches with your head, trust it and just move with it. And if you're working somewhere where you're not getting that, leave that place. There's many, many great companies out there that will take you. You don't have to accept it. We only get one life. You want to have the best experience you can. And I am telling you, not every business, there's a lot of great people out there. So have some faith. And if you want to do it yourself, like I said, if your head and your heart match, go for it.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm really glad I met you, Ed. And again, thank you to Marie, because I love this. This is like, I can eat that. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Connection is my strategy. That's my whole platform, is connection. And with that, and when you're feeling disconnected in one part of or aspect of your life, it has that effect in every part. We are not machinery. We can't just turn one side of our brains off for the other, like you said. And a lot of people think, well, if that's happening at home, don't bring it to work. That's not the way life works. It just isn't. So thank you for saying that earlier. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been great. I really enjoyed it. I hope your audience, like I said, I think you're doing some good work. I think the more we talk about it, the more we speak to it, the more it becomes comfortable for people. And I think that's the thing that we can do to give them the psychological safety to feel like, hey, I can really talk about this stuff.
Emotional safety is so, so, so important. So thank you for giving that to your team and everybody that surrounds you. I appreciate you. And thank you for being a guest on the podcast today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. And I'm going to say before we go, I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast. And don't forget, who's listening, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day. Live it. And today is the day. You can't go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what steps, small or large, are you going to take today to get yourself closer to your goals? Again, thank you, Ed DeAngelis. I'm so glad we met. And please, one more time, what is that website?
EDAcontractors.com.
Awesome. Have a great week, everyone. Bye, Ed.
Thank you. Bye-bye.